Hi, I'm Jeff Opdyke, and I am the editor of the Savvy Retiree, and I want to introduce you today to Alex Fasulo. She's a freelancer for Fiverr, which is a freelance site where I do a bit of work myself, and I sort of regularly reference in my weekend Savvy Retiree columns and some of the cover stories I write about. But Alex is more than just a freelancer on Fiverr. She is a quote Fiverr millionaire. And she has, literally earned more than $1 million over the last several years on Fiverr, providing a variety of services as a writer for hire. And I know Alex only because I'm addicted to TikTok. And I first came across her there, where she regularly updates viewers on how they too can follow her path to success as a freelancer on Fiverr or some of the other freelance websites that exist these days. And I follow her there on TikTok too, under Alex Fasulo Biz, B-I-Z. So you can sort of follow her if you want to keep up with her exploits. She does some funny things like dancing around and trying to get old men upset that she makes $32,000 a month, which I thought was really quite funny.
Oh,
Um, the reason I wanted to bring Alex online is because she represents everything I regularly write about. And it's namely the fact that you can earn a very good lifestyle and a very good income. It's readily available to freelancers these days. You just have to put in the effort, and clearly she has put in the effort and she's doing it right. And I thought there was something that people could learn from listening to her story. So with all that out of the way, I want to say thanks, Alex, for taking the time yet again to talk to me since I screwed up the recording yesterday. Really sorry about that.
it's all right. Thanks, Jeff.
So I just want to jump in really quickly with your background, because I know from watching you on TikTok that you didn't come to Fiverr in the freelance world as sort of a freelance writer. You didn't come out of the newspaper business, the magazine business. You came at it from a completely different angle.
Yeah, I accidentally arrived at it by quitting a job that I had recently taken in New York City. I only lasted 4 weeks at it because I hated it so much. And when I quit it, I had to kind of get creative to pay my rent. And at the time, I had been editing on Fiverr. I wasn't taking it very seriously, though. It was just like a way to make some petty cash on the side. So when I quit that job, I was like, I have nothing to lose right now. And I had previously been writing press releases. So I was like, I guess maybe I can offer that on this site. I'm already editing on it. Maybe I can write press releases for people. So, I opened that service up, and I'm pretty sure within a few days I had some interest in it. And that was when I started to get like hooked, when I realized that there's a whole world out there I was about to explore.
How long does it take to get that first gig? I know that's a really open-ended random question, because it could take 1 hour to 40 days. But the point I'm trying to get to is that I know a lot of people, when they sign up for some of these freelance sites, they get frustrated that on the first day they don't have $1,000 coming in, or $100, whatever their number is. And I know when I first, sort of doing Fiverr myself back in right after the COVID crisis began, I began doing freelance script editing for screenplays and stuff. That the first gig didn't really happen for maybe a week or two, and it seems to me that some of it is you have to wait. You have to get that first gig, and then once you get that first gig, it sort of opens everything up, because you get a review and people start saying, okay, he's reputable. So how long did it actually take for you to really get a gig and begin to see an income stream flowing in?
Um, it's hard for me to say because when I first started, I was editing. So when I decided to start writing on there full time, I already had about 50, 100 5-star reviews. So naturally, when I opened up the press release gig, it got going pretty quickly. But I mean, I can go based off of the people who write to me on TikTok every day, and I would say on average, can take 1 week to get your first order. I think people who come at it with a very impatient mindset, it's never going to work, because there is definitely a lot of waiting involved. A lot of patience needs to be involved with this. But I always say to people, why just sign up on one freelancing site then? If you are in such a hurry, why don't you sign up on 4 of them? And because that's what I signed up at Upwork at the time. I started doing private social media management for people on the side because I didn't want to put all of my stress on Fiverr. It just ended up becoming pretty much my full-time job because of how much traffic I had on there. So I would say to people, I'd wait a week. And if you still don't have any interest, it means there's something wrong with your profile, with how you're presenting your gig, or with how you're pricing it.
And when you say when you started doing press releases, you already had, a bunch of 5-star reviews. Where did those 5-star reviews come from? You were doing something sort of part-time prior to going full-time?
Yeah, I was just for a year I was offering proofreading and editing like a flat rate $5. Like sometimes I'd be editing a paragraph, sometimes 10 pages for people, and I was 21 at the time and I thought it was great because I was working another job. So, I'll see these people who kind of have this mindset of like, well, I'm worth more than that. I'm like, but in the beginning you really have to just kind of take that out of your head and kind of humble yourself a little bit, I think, is part of this whole process. And that's definitely what weeds a lot of people out of it, is what you're willing to do to make it work. It's definitely a long-term type of thing.
That raises a really interesting point that I think a lot of people struggle with, that I've heard at conferences I speak at, is that you were talking about earning $5 or $10 for a gig, and most people think, well, I'm worth more than that, and I'm coming out of I was a doctor, I was making $150 an hour, I want to write at $100 an hour, and it just doesn't work like that.
No, I mean, it's like you have to pay your dues with everything from, apprenticing as a tattoo artist to becoming a chef in a kitchen. You don't just walk in at 22 and they're like, oh, okay, you're the chef. It's like you have to, earn your keep. And on Fiverr and these freelancing sites, it's all about your reviews. That's it. Your reviews and your ranking, but your ranking can be determined by your reviews. So on Fiverr, to advance from level 1 to level 2, there's a certain amount of time you have to be on there. There's a certain amount of reviews you need to get. So it's like you have to provide this social proof to these buyers because they want to know if they can trust you or not. So if you have 0 reviews of anything, of course they're a little like, oh, is this person going to give me a good product? A lot of the times they're like, is this person going to scam me? Are they actually in another country and they're claiming they can speak English? So, the social proof is huge, and you have to wait your turn almost to get your social proof going. But then once you do, it's all up to you then. There's definitely room for everyone. I see on TikTok dozens of people every day tell me like, oh, I made $1,000 this week. I just started last month. I'm like, geez, I didn't even, have that growth. So that's awesome.
Right. And what was your goal when you left your job and you said, I'm going to try and go freelance full time? Did you have a financial goal in mind that would make you feel like you were succeeding at it and you would stick with it for a while?
No, I really just wanted to pay my rent. I had just moved to New York City a few months prior, so I just really didn't want to be that person who had to move back home. I'm from upstate New York in like a very small village, technically. So I didn't want to be like, oh, Alex lasted 3 months in New York City, what a loser or whatever. So I was like, I just need to make my rent and my expenses here, and then I don't have to leave. So I was like, that was my first goal. And then once I kind of discovered that I was going to be able to do that, I never really had a goal in mind. It was more so always about the challenge of, well, can I advance to this level? Well, can I hit this income, this revenue each day? Like it was always like a little game I was playing with myself, but never in the back of my head was I thinking, I want to make 100K, I want to make 200K. It was more about the like chase of it.
And how long did it take for you to realize I can actually make a go of this? I'm going to make enough money to cover my rent.
I know it's funny because I wish I could go back in time. At the time I had no idea I'd be doing podcasts about this. So sometimes it's hard for me to remember, but I just remember I started doing it at the end of December 2015. And I'm pretty sure it was February, March 2016. So about 3 months later, I remember just kind of sitting at my laptop because I had so many orders. Actually, I was like not sleeping, and it all hit really quick, and I had to raise my prices, pause some gigs, like it kind of got crazy. And that's when I remember I was sitting there and I was just smiling. I was in my apartment. It was like 1 a.m. and I was like, wow, like what have I stumbled on here? Like this is crazy, I had a feeling it was gonna definitely take on a mind of its own.
So people, and I see the comments on your on TikTok that people say, and I've responded to a couple of them myself. How do people won't believe when you say you're a Fiverr millionaire. They don't believe that there's that kind of money to be made in the freelance world as a writer. But you have literally made more than $1 million. And can you sort of talk about that? And let me preface this by saying, Alex is making as much as $32,000 a month these days, and she's on track to, I think, 300 some odd $1,000 in income this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, last year it was 350. I think this year it may even be 400, and that's partially in due to COVID, which we can talk about, which is crazy. But yeah, no, people hate really hard on this. They definitely don't believe it. Even though I have I have press and CNBC, Yahoo Finance, Forbes, I like they wouldn't be publishing my story if it was fake, but still I'll still send the article to people and they still will not believe it. And I think that's because in their head, maybe they think that Fiverr is still based on $5, obviously the name Fiverr. But I'm like, if you took 2 seconds to go on Fiverr, you would see that's not the case at all. There's people charging $5 to $500 per gig. It's absolutely possible. And I always say to people, there are 7-figure Fiverr earners per year. Like they get all upset that I make 350, 400K. There are people on there who make over $1 million per year. So I'm not even at the top. Like I'm sure I'm in a small class. Maybe there's, 20 of us or so doing this, but there's a solid 5 people above me who make even more than me. So I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand that it's possible. Maybe it's because in the beginning it's not. So they probably only stick around for a year and see, no, this isn't possible, but they don't realize if you stick around for 6 years, a lot changes on there. And you progress through the ranking system, and you've returning buyers is 50% of my business now. Because I've been on there so long, I have so many people who just buy from me every day now. But that took years to get those people. Yeah.
And you mentioned COVID, and that was a question I wanted to ask you, is how has COVID changed? Because I started writing back in March that as it was emerging, that this whole idea of cubicle culture in America was dead, that we're going to go to a much more remote worker, freelance worker based economy going forward. But I'm curious how it has played through to you, because you are so active on Fiverr. Did you see an increase in business, or did you see sort of a consolidation of people sort of moving away and holding back on their spending? What happened?
Yeah, like I said to you yesterday, no, it's been crazy. I thought my business was going to slow down. I thought if people were having issues monetarily, the last thing they're going to be spending their money on is writing. They're going to be buying groceries instead. But what I saw happening by the end of March, early April, is that so many of these panicked businesses were pivoting online that weren't previously online. And this forced it, obviously, because they can't have the foot traffic and everything anymore. So they were more than willing to drop $200, $300, $400 on, to have great writing on their website, press releases, blogs. So my business exploded. And it was crazy. From March to June, did not leave. I went to my mom's home because New York was not safe at the time. So I didn't leave my mom's home literally for like 3 months because I had so much business coming in that I couldn't believe it. Not that there was even anywhere to go because everything was closed, but it's been a crazy year. It's been a successful year, which is really weird because it's been not great in a lot of other ways. So that's why I want to share that with people if they think, oh, business is dead, or I'm never going to have a job again. Cubicle life is dead. It's like, yeah, cubicle life might be dead, but the online world of freelancing is very alive, and there's definitely a lot of room for people in it.
How do you manage when you say your business has doubled? And I know what it's like to be a writer. I've been a writer for 30 years, whatever it's been. And I know that there's only so many words you can crank out of your head on a daily basis, and you have so many hours in a day. How do you manage a doubling of your business as a writer? What does a typical Alex day look like?
Definitely some burnout at times. It always depends for me because right now it's freezing cold in New York, and it's now I can no longer go sit outside and do anything. So I follow the seasons with how much work I can do. So from a March to a June, I really have no problem cranking out 10 hours of writing every day because there's nothing else to go do. It's not warm out. Come June, once it gets warm out, I definitely like to push away a little bit on it and slow everything down. But what's really nice is that the buyers stop buying, or they slow down in the summer too, because they are also sitting out at the pool. So it's kind of nice. It always slows in December with Christmas, and I always like that because I want it to slow too. So I mean, I would say when my business doubled in the spring, yeah, I was working anywhere from 8 to 12 hours each day. I didn't mind it. It was there's nothing else to do. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always swear by waking up early so that I can get started by like 7:30 a.m. and then build breaks into the day, because any writer knows you can't go really for more than, I think, even like 3 hours, maybe at like that mark. I need to just like take a break for a second. You can't just do it all day. So I'll start early and build in breaks and pretty much not end till like 8 p.m. But I'll take, I'll have an hour here, an hour here. So I'm not like dying over here.
And how do you manage weekends? Because as I mentioned to you, when I'm editing screenplays and it's 120 pages or whatever it is, and I get it on a Friday and I've got a 3-day deadline, and I'm thinking like, oh great, I've got to work over a Saturday and a Sunday. How do you manage a weekend so that you're not just 24/7, 7 days a week?
Yeah, I do two things for that. If somebody places an order on a Thursday or a Friday, I use the extension timer to just push it off to Monday. Or I take on a little bit of work every weekend. So today, I have about 2 hours of work to do. So I allow a few orders to trickle in, and then some of the bigger ones, I'll send the extension timer for Monday. Or if they message me privately, when you create a custom gig, you can like choose the timeline you want. So if someone's writing to me on a Thursday or Friday, I'll turn into 3 days and tell them, I'll say, okay, I'm going to deliver this on Monday. I take Sundays off. And every single time they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. Like, that's very normal if you want to take a Sunday off.
Right. What is a, let me back up a second. So you earn tens of thousands of dollars a month. It's not just one gig of a press release writer. You have multiple gigs. How many different gigs do you have, and which ones of those gigs tend to bring in the largest paycheck for you?
I think I have 13 at this point, which is crazy. I could have up to 20, but I don't think I could handle having up to 20, which is also funny. My most popular gigs are writing blogs, writing website content. When I say that, people don't know what that means. I'm writing the text you see on a home page or the About Us page, and that kind of writing. And ebooks are huge. I opened my ebook gig last year, and it definitely increased my income by a lot, because you can charge a lot for an ebook. It's not a little blog anymore. If it's a 10,000 word ebook, I charge $1,000 for that. Granted, it takes 2 days, but sometimes it's nice to have those bigger projects, because one ebook would be the same as if someone had to book 10 blogs for me. So, I end up making more money with it. But those three are super popular. I mean, other things I offer are like product descriptions, app store descriptions, like the text you see when you're shopping in the app store, editing, travel blogs, trying to think, crowdfunding campaign text I do for people, like what you see on Indiegogo and GoFundMe. I always like to help those people out. I always end up donating back to their campaign because I feel bad.
And to be clear, when you're talking about ebooks, you're not writing grandma's history of life in Poughkeepsie. You're writing ebooks that a dentist gives away to bring in clients or something like that, right?
Yeah. Wait, did you say Poughkeepsie, like from upstate New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, because I'm from outside Albany.
uh,
No, yeah, I will do these nonfiction topics that people are going to use as lead magnets. So if it's a health coach, they want an ebook, 10 superfoods to help you lose weight, or if it's a personal finance person, they want, 15 ways to improve your credit. And it's things that I can look up for them, but I do always make them send me the chapter topics, because I'm also like, listen, this is a lot of work over here, so you need to help me a teeny bit. You need to give me your chapter topics, because I want you to also like what I'm writing too. But no, I won't do anything. If I've had people be like, oh, can you write my memoir? Can you write a book about my mom that passed away? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I am not doing the personal stuff. I like to keep it like business, nonfiction stuff.
and so what is the piece of advice that people need to get started in this? Because I know that's a stickler for a lot of people to say, what is my first step? And I try to tell people, I think the first step is really just going and sort of creating your profile on Fiverr, Upwork, or wherever you want to do it. But I mean, you are far more successful at this than I am. So what is your first step you tell people?
I just tell people to just do it because I think a lot of people will wait way too long. They put way too much, this needs to be perfect into their head, and they don't realize the best thing they could be doing is just actually doing it. So if they want to start being a copywriter, ask your mom, dad, brother, friend, hey, can I write a blog for your business? They're going to say yes. Getting that practice in is the most important part. And it will help you get over your fears and lack of confidence with it. So I would say to people, just get started. I mean, just sign up, make your profile. You have literally nothing to lose. That's what I did. I just winged it. Like I didn't have a special guide next to me telling me what to do. I just dove in, and I would say explore a bunch of different freelancing sites. You don't just have to use Fiverr. There's like 15 of them now. I know a lot of people who prefer Upwork even. So it's like there's so many options out there. I would say nothing like just actually doing it.
What makes a good profile? I think that is an issue that I've heard people talk to me about personally, because they just want to go on there and they sort of list almost like they're doing a resume. Like, I went to school here and I did this and I did that, and, and it may not even be relevant to the gig. So what makes, in your mind, a really strong profile for people?
I really think the most important thing at the end of the day is you have to realize people are superficial and they're busy and everything. I really think it comes down to how clearly can people tell that you are who you say you are on your profile, which means pictures of yourself. It doesn't matter what you look like. They're not hiring you for how attractive you are. They just want to know that you're not going to scam them, because a lot of people are scared of that. So I think the most important thing is a high resolution profile picture of yourself that a professional photographer took, where it's up close, you're like making eye contact, you're smiling. And then on your gig images, no matter what you sell, editing a picture of yourself into every single gig image, a different one of yourself, so that when people land on your profile, because they immediately see these pictures, they go, okay, there's 7 different pictures of this person. I can tell they are real. They're not lying to me, and I can trust them. And I really think that's like hands down the most important. The rest of the profile is like a LinkedIn profile. Just fill it out. It's like, don't skip over it, fill it out nicely. But I really think the imagery is everything on there, because people are, today, what is it, like the average attention span's down to 7 seconds, and it used to be like 21 seconds 100 years ago. People are like just filtering through things. I mean, look at TikTok. It's like 7-second videos. So, if they land on your profile and don't know who you are or any of it, they're like, okay, they leave. So
how do you know what to charge? And this is, we talked about this yesterday, and I mentioned that, I do the screenwriting stuff, and I went to UCLA, so I have the background in screenwriting. And when I first got involved with this, as I was saying, I'm doing, 120-page scripts, and I realized at some point, I'm earning like 19 cents an hour because I just underpriced myself so dramatically early on. And I've moved the prices up to feel a little better about what I'm doing. But how did you come to the point of going from $5 for a gig or $10 to where you are now, where you're earning, $50 to $150 to $1,000 or whatever it is per gig? How do you determine that pricing?
I really base it off of the level that you're ranked at on Fiverr. So they have a ranking system: new level, level 1, level 2, top level. And then they also have like a completely separate little platform for Fiverr Pro, which I am now in. You have to apply separately for that. It's supposed to be like the top 1% of the platform. So every level that I advanced to, I would go look at my closest competitors. I would look at people who had 200, 300, 400 reviews, meaning, they're doing well. And I would just average what they were charging for myself. I never went higher than them, and I never went lower than them. And I tend to drift towards the lower end of the pricing spectrum. That's just me. But I would increase it with my level changes. I mean, I don't increase my prices often. I wait like a year before I do it, because I'll have people say to me, when can I? I'm like, I'd say maybe every 6 months, but you also have to keep in mind, you don't want to scare away all your current buyers either before you're worth more yet. So I would say, if you're at $10 right now and you've only been doing that for a month, why don't you give it a few months and before you do 15, before you do 20. I've always been kind of slow with it, but I don't know, might be the answer because it's worked for me.
And can you explain Fiverr Pro for just a second in terms of
Yeah.
what that means for the trust level that buyers might have, as well as the income, the prices you can charge per gig?
Yeah, so Fiverr Pro, since it's the top 1% of their platform, they launched in 2017 as an effort to kind of get away from their, bargain branding that had gone on with them. They today still are definitely like desperately trying to get away from that. So Fiverr Pro, it's like this little black badge that you get on your profile that basically tells these people Fiverr has determined that you are the top 1% of talent on the platform, which means you are worth more money than the other sellers. And they prefer, I think, for like pricing psychology, that you start at $100 per gig minimum. And they really prefer you charge even more, because it's that feeling of like walking into a designer store and you see the purse that's 2,200. It might not actually be worth 2,200, but when you see it, you in your head, you're like, oh, wow, that's a nice purse. That's basically Fiverr Pro. It's like the designer version. Yeah.
So I'll wrap this up by asking sort of a more holistic question about lifestyle. The fact that you went from, charging $5 or $10, and now you are literally a Fiverr millionaire, and you're making, large six-figure incomes that most people would really sort of love to have. How has it changed Alex's lifestyle, if at all?
Yeah, it's always funny when people ask me this. I feel like in a really weird way, it still hasn't hit me, if that even makes sense. Maybe it's because of my age, or I don't know. I'm the same. I save a lot of my money. I donate more of it. I help myself to a nicer dinner here and there, but I wouldn't really say that my life has changed all that much. I think it will in a couple years. I'd like to buy a home, and I'll probably buy a very large and nice home, and that will be lovely. But until then, I still just live like a 27-year-old female in Brooklyn. I think it's important to kind of, I don't know, not get full of yourself with it. So I don't care. I try not to care about it, because then I'd become insufferable. So
I imagine you feel more of a financial security, particularly in a moment like this when we're going through sort of a
yeah.
pandemic / economic crisis.
Yeah, exactly. And being a freelancer and entrepreneur, there's no financial security. That's one of the trade-offs, the stress of it. So I feel really blessed about this, because since I'm saving so much of it, I'm at a position now where if Fiverr shut down tomorrow, I'd be okay for years. And that's an amazing thing that most entrepreneurs don't ever know the feeling of. And it definitely has given me security to explore a bunch of other things I want to get started on. So that's definitely the best part about it.
Okay. I appreciate your time, Alex. Again, I'm sorry that yesterday was a screw up. That was all my fault. Sorry.
It's okay,
I really, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for everything.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye.
Bye.